Major funding for A Musical Encounter in Cleveland has been provided by the Northrop Corporation.
Now take the one that's pesante, and what I want to ask for, and this from everybody who plays this, figure one, the pesante. Fourth beat, hold the dynamic for the first eighth note. What we actually do is we reach a fortissimo halfway through the note, and so as we move to the downbeat, we have nothing left. What would be very exciting would be yum bum bum bum. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this musical encounter from Cleveland, Ohio. My name is Christopher Wilkins, and I'll be the conductor today of this orchestra, which is called the Cleveland Institute of Music Youth Orchestra. We've been invited by the Young Musicians Foundation of Los Angeles to join Los Angeles, Rochester, Baltimore, and many other cities across the United States in producing this series of shows called Musical Encounter. Now, Musical Encounter features a musical instrument on every show. And today, you may not be aware of this, it may come as a surprise, but we have the world's largest instrument. What do you think that is, the world's largest instrument?
Double bass.
Double bass is a good answer, certainly a large one. How about another answer?
Piano.
Piano's a big one. That's not the one I'm thinking of. How about another answer?
Harp.
Harp's a good-sized instrument. This is a little bit of a trick question, actually, because what I'm thinking of is the orchestra. The orchestra is, it's true, a collection of instruments, but in a sense, when they all play together, it's like one very large instrument. We're going to begin today with a performance of a piece from the Hari Janos suite of Kodály. It has a kind of gypsy flavor, which you may be able to hear, and listen especially for solo instruments. There are many solo instruments. See if you can identify them, and think of questions that you might like to ask either of me or of the orchestra at the end. Isn't that exciting music? Did you hear some solo instruments? Yes. Good. Any of you who'd like to ask questions at this point, please just come on right up to the microphones. Let's go 3 or 4 at a time, maybe, rather than so many people. Let's just have 3 or 4 people in the line at once. It's marvelous. You'll all get your chance, I hope. Okay.
What's that instrument over there?
Which one now?
The one that
Looks like a big table?
Yeah.
That is called a cymbalum, and it's a special Hungarian instrument which we've had brought specially from Chicago by this man who's one of the few in the country, really a handful of people, who plays it. His name is Alex Udvari, and perhaps, Alex, you could give us a quick demonstration of the cymbalum. Wild sound. That's fantastic. That's really a gypsy instrument. This piece is a kind of gypsy piece, and that instrument lends it some of that flavor. Thanks. Next question?
Well, I want to know, what are they looking at, you or the music book?
They're doing both, actually. They're looking at the music, and then they're looking up at me for signals, and then they're looking down at the music, and they really have to do both, unless they've practiced so hard that they have the music memorized.
There's a person back there, and she plays a flute and another little instrument. I want to know what it's called.
Okay, we have a flute player here. We hold up the flute. And next to it we have a piccolo, which is a smaller instrument. That's the piccolo there.
Oh, and I see a couple of wooden instruments sticking up out of the sky.
Ah.
What are they?
Like big trees out there, aren't they? They're the redwoods of the orchestra. They're called bassoons. Let's have the bassoon players stand up with your instruments, please. The mighty bassoons. Thank you.
What's the stick that you use in your hand all the time when you motion?
This is a baton. And a baton, most conductors use a baton because it makes the beat clear. It gives a clear rhythm. For example, I can demonstrate. If I move my hand like this, the people in the back row see my hand move maybe an inch. Here they have a white stick. If I move my hand an inch, the baton, you see, moves maybe 6 inches. So it gives them a much clearer signal.
How long have you, do they get paid?
No, they do not. They do this for the fun of it. That's great. I think we'll go on from that point. And I would now like to introduce our young soloist for the day. She's 16 years old. She plays the cello. She was recently a finalist, one of 3 finalists in a nationwide competition sponsored by General Motors and 17 magazine. and we're delighted to be playing with her. Her name is Hope Easton. Hope will be playing with the orchestra a piece called Allegro Appassionato by Camille Saint-Saëns. Terrific, Hope. Before you all have a chance to ask Hope some questions, we have a very special guest that I'd like to introduce to you now. As I've told you, Hope is the principal cellist of our orchestra, the Cleveland Institute of Music Youth Orchestra. We have with us today a man who's the first cellist of a great professional orchestra, our very own Cleveland Orchestra. Would you please welcome with me now, Stephen Gaber. Stephen, thanks so much for coming and being with us here today.
Well, thank you. I'm sure you know that I would never turn down an invitation to be with young people in music. It's just marvelous.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. And perhaps you here would like to know a little bit about Christopher Wilkins, who is not only the director here of this fine Cleveland Institute of Music Orchestra, but he is also a very valued friend and the fine assistant conductor of the Cleveland Orchestra. And I hope that on occasion, some of you, many of you, all of you, will come to Severance Hall and see and watch and hear him conduct the Cleveland Orchestra at one of our concerts.
Thanks, Stephen. I know many of them have been to hear our children's concerts there, and it's just nice to see them hearing all the orchestral music that they can. Now, I'm sure you'd all like to ask some questions, either of Stephen or of Hope or of myself, or any questions that might come to mind. So why don't you all come on up to the microphones now, and feel free to ask whatever you'd like.
My name is Chen, and I was wondering where the cello came from.
You mean what country it came from? Okay. Stephen, you want to try that one?
That's a very good question, and I can't really be authentic in my answer to you, except to tell you what little I do know about the beginning, and that is that it comes from the instrument way, way long ago in the 1700s called the viola da gamba. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
That's a small, very small cello, looking cello. Looks almost like a big viola. And it has many more strings on it, too, than a cello. And the outgrowth of that was when the cello was invented in Europe.
Well, I was wondering, the girl in the blue dress and the braids.
Yes?
Well, I was wondering, how long did it take to learn how to play the oboe?
Good. That's Jennifer. Let's have Jennifer answer that.
Well, I started playing oboe when I was in 7th grade, and I'm a sophomore in high school, which means I'm in 10th grade. And I really didn't get serious about it until 8th grade, and then I really started practicing, and I practiced about 2 hours a day. And if I didn't practice that long, then I wouldn't probably be in this orchestra. You just have to keep it up. You know, if you decide to do something, you should just keep going.
Great, thanks.
Chris, if I may call you Chris.
Oh, well, you may, please.
How long does it take to learn how to be a conductor?
Takes a long, long time. Now, it depends on what you mean. The first time, I never took a lesson the first time I conducted. So there I was in front of an orchestra. I'd never conducted before, and there I was conducting. But I have to be honest with you, I wasn't a very good conductor then. Some of the great conductors in the world will tell you that it takes 20 or 30 years to know what you're doing, really.
I'm Brian Durham, and I was wondering if when you play in a concert at the beginning, are you kind of shaky and scared? Or, you know, since you played so long, is it kind of natural, you know?
I think it's always natural for any performer to be a little bit scared just before they play. And it actually is good that you're feeling a little bit like that.
Why is that?
It keeps you alert. Alert and right on top of it.
How about you?
Sure. I always get nervous before an important performance. And like Stephen, I think it's a good idea because your adrenaline, I don't know if you've heard that word, but it means that your heart is pumping very quickly. And it means that your mind, everything is working quickly and you're sharp. It's not a bad thing to be a little bit nervous. We'd like to move on from here now. Hope's going to play The Swan by Camille Saint-Saëns. And joining her now are pianist Mary Jane Austen and harpist Susan Iacobucci. this point, we want to thank you, Stephen, for coming and being with us. You've been most generous with your time and your energies on our behalf. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, we'd like to play the final movement from this suite that we've been playing called Hari Janos by Kodai. The title of this one is The Entrance of the Emperor and His Court.
Yeah, my question is that about the violins.
Yes, those are violins.
Why are they shaped like that?
What do some of the symbols mean that you use when you're directing the orchestra?
How long would a violin or cello practice in one day? How long did you have to practice to get this memorized, this piece that you just played?
How do you keep all the instruments playing together? How long does it take you to learn a song?
How long have you, do they get paid?
No, they do not. They do this for the fun of it.
A musical encounter in Cleveland has been a presentation of the Young Musicians Foundation of Los Angeles. Funding for the series of musical encounters has been provided by the Bank America Foundation, the California Community Foundation, the Far East National Bank, the Gannett Foundation, the International Business Machines Corporation, the Mattel Foundation, the Northrop Corporation, the Security Pacific Foundation, the Tosco Corporation, and the Yamaha International Corporation.